CTV News with Mitsumi Takahashi.
Good evening. The leader of the Parti Quebecois was promoting what he said would be a major announcement today. Well, it wasn't. It was an idea PQ leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon had raised months ago, that he wouldn't trigger a referendum until after Donald Trump left office. And it was an announcement that raised eyebrows and prompted criticism from all sides. Here's Matt Gilmore.
With the specter of an unpredictable U.S. president in Washington, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon says a third referendum will have to wait until after Donald Trump leaves office.
Trump's tenure at the White House is not an ideal period to think about our future.
It's an idea the PQ leader has considered in the past. Now, his official position.
So if we have to choose within a period of 4 years, we will choose to discuss the future of Quebec later on after after Trump.
If elected, Plamondon still intends to hold a referendum within his first 4 years in office. His political opponents accusing him of trying to avoid debate on an unpopular position.
He's recognizing that a referendum would add a big layer, a thick layer of uncertainty on Quebec's economy. And therefore, he's suggesting to organize it at the end of a first mandate, which is worse.
He's kind of saying, you know what, we're going through a tough patch economically, so we'll stop discussing the referendum for now, and we will resume in 2 years. So it doesn't make any sense. He's actually proving that, Quebec is stronger within Canada.
Support for sovereignty is at a low point going into the election campaign, with just over 30% of Quebecers in favor, a number that mirrors the Parti Quebecois' own support in the polls.
If you want to reach out to other Quebecers, soft nationalists, CQ voters, for instance, who don't want a third referendum on sovereignty, you have to change your strategy.
The campaign is just weeks away, and Plamondon says he hopes issues like affordability, homelessness, and mental health will take center stage, and not what he calls fear tactics.
I don't think Mr. Milliard and Christine Fréchette will be able to run a campaign through 50 days of just having no ideas, no proposition, and just trying to scare people. They might try it, and that's their campaign, but that's not what I'm going to do.
Despite today's announcement, the PQ leader's opponents appear determined to make the referendum question a ballot box issue. Voters go to the polls on October 5th. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
The woman who was stabbed in her home in Saint-Michel yesterday has died of her injuries, and it's believed to be another case of domestic violence. A man in his 30s was also found in the home. He had critical injuries. Police are calling him a person of interest in the case, and they're waiting until he's well enough to talk to them. And police are now confirming that the man and the woman were a couple. Montreal's Metro is turning 60, and there will be a new campaign to celebrate the system. But there are also questions about what happens now. Here's Kelly Gregg.
It's come a long way. Montreal's Metro opened in 1966 with 20 stops. The mayor at the time, Jean Drapeau.
We're very proud we will have here in Montreal a network of Metro to which no one will really be comparable.
And over its 6-decade ride, it's grown to 68 stations and given 11 billion trips.
When Montreal decided to build the metro in the 60s, it had ambition.
To mark the milestone, there will be art installations and performances. While the mayor is celebrating 60 years of the Metro, she says it's obvious more public transit is needed. With the REM now in the West Island, she says next up should be Montreal East.
I live in the east part of Montreal. I've been east part of Montreal all my life. When you live at the end of the island, from there to the first metro station, you have 22 kilometers. So if we want to connect 10% of the population of Quebec, which is as big as the city of Quebec, we need a transportation that will bring us to at least La Station Honoré-Beaugrand.
There have been studies about another REM branch or tram, but nothing has been built. And while the Blue Line extension is on schedule, the proposed Pink Line didn't get the necessary funding, derailing the entire project.
It's a good idea, technically speaking, the pink line. It's a diagonal line going through the street grid, so it's quicker than the car or the buses.
And according to urban planners, getting from one suburb to another, especially off-island, is still a challenge.
Transit cover well or reasonably well just a small amount of the mobility needs that we have. Everything else is like either you have a car or you don't take the trip.
With an election looming, the city wants all the provincial leaders to come for a ride.
I offered to the whole head of the parties to come and visit the metro.
Because after 60 years, the city wants to ensure public transit is on the right track. Kelly Gregg, CTV News.
Just hours to go until Donald Trump's 50% tariffs come into effect. Last-minute talks are underway, and in the Prime Minister's own words, the stakes are high. Mike Lecouture is in Washington.
Yesterday, there was a lot of action when you consider there was an hour and 45-minute meeting between both sides of negotiators that included U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. But today, it's been extremely quiet outside the offices of U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. While Canada is looking to get sectoral tariffs removed on steel, aluminum, and lumber, the tariffs on autos seem to be one of the most significant roadblocks to these negotiations. Right now, it's a 25% tariff on all non-American parts in those cars that are going into the United States. Sources are telling CTV News that while the Canadians want that number to go down to 10%, one American source says they might be willing to settle on 12.5%. Also new today, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce published a statement advocating for an end to this trade dispute. In it, the chamber encourages the two sides to continue talking with the goal of making a deal, saying, quote, the introduction of higher tariffs would damage both economies, drive up the costs for U.S. families, further disrupt critical supply chains, and risk the 13 million American jobs that depend on trade under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Some of the people who were around that table for that negotiation say it's getting difficult to see how we can come to a deal because of how dug in the Americans are on sectoral tariffs.
It's not so much about getting a win for Canada, it's about surviving the damage being inflicted by Donald Trump and limiting the damage. We've got to ride out the next 2.5 years of this president. We're never going to get to a great place on trade with this president. He likes his tariffs. So the goal is limiting damage.
Just how much damage Canada can limit remains to be seen as the clock continues to tick towards that midnight deadline. Mike Lecouture, CTV News, Washington.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is calling on Quebec to drop the carbon tax. It says Montreal drivers pay the highest gas taxes in Canada, with 61 cents in federal and provincial taxes per litre of gasoline. It also says that Quebec is the only province that charges a direct carbon tax. And when Ottawa reintroduces its federal excise tax in September, that price will go up even more.
Approximately 35% of the price of gas right now are mainly just taxes. And it's important to take in consideration that based on the projection that we have, by 2030, this percentage will increase up to 47%, since obviously the federal excise tax might come back as soon as September 8th.
It was to have been a study into how people who are homeless die. But researchers at the University of Sherbrooke say they had a very hard time doing that research. The researchers say the death of someone in the streets is not necessarily recorded as a death of someone who is homeless. They say only non-profit community groups try to track that information. People who are homeless tend to have more health problems, ranging from addictions to cancer. The researchers say health officials should keep better records so that policy changes can be made to give the homeless the care they need.
Obviously, every individual death is reported to the authorities, but the reporting system does not indicate whether the person was experiencing homelessness at the time of death, which means that we currently have no reliable way of tracking deaths that occur in the context of homelessness.
The researchers are hoping that Quebec Public Health will start reporting homeless deaths, and they also say that they've created a homeless death reporting form that can easily be filled out by medical officials and by regular citizens. It is estimated that 1 in 3 children in Quebec go to school hungry. And the Breakfast Club of Canada is trying to change that. The Breakfast Club has launched a fundraising campaign in Quebec. It's to prepare for the new school year. The charity provides food to more than 100,000 school children in Quebec through some 700 school breakfast programs.
The pressure on families and on children is very high right now and has been growing since the pandemic, like for everyone, right? The cost of food is really expensive right now. And so we've seen in the last year, first of all, the cost of food for the Breakfast Club to buy the food and the breakfast to transfer to schools has increased by 28%. But our presence of the children in our breakfast programs, our existing breakfast programs, has risen by 30%. So the pressure is really high right now, yes.
The Caring for Kids Radiothon is this Thursday. Over the years, through the Montreal Children's Hospital, it's changed thousands of lives. Christine Long met with one family whose twins were born 11 weeks premature.
He's the happiest kid you will meet
in the world.
Full of energy now, Evan Palacios Burke is 7 years old and has already endured 20 surgeries, most of them to help him breathe. Evan and his twin, Emma, were born 2 months early at the Montreal Children's Hospital.
Evan is 750 grams, Emma is 1,250.
Both babies spent weeks in incubators. Their mother, Malena Palacios, says she was in shock.
They have tubes, machines, wires, and I'm like, which one is which? Nobody is expecting to see a baby this small and still so frail, and the skin so thin.
So fragile, the twins couldn't be held for weeks.
You speak to them, sing to them, tell them you're here, they can feel you, they can hear you.
And then, with 2 teams of specialists, Mom finally got to hold her twins.
It was just a quietness of both babies, finally with Mom.
Emma was discharged after a few months, but Evan spent 8 months in the neonatal intensive care unit.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Palacios says the staff at the Children's saved them all.
These people became family. These people knew everything about the children. They're like, you know, especially Evan, being there for 8 months.
Evan is a little hero. He's been through so much.
Dr. Sam Daniels says Evan was the tiniest patient he's ever operated on.
His resilience, his courage, and the incredible family that is so supportive, that is nurturing, that was there for him in very difficult times, for sure, because he's been through so many surgeries.
It's a toy.
Evan has more challenges in his future, but seems to have the energy for it. Emma is looking forward to grade 2.
I went to gym and I got to see my friends.
Evan and Emma are the spokes-children for the August 20th Caring for Kids Radiothon that benefits the Montreal Children's Hospital Foundation.
Come see us at the Radiothon.
Donations made to 514-939-KIDS and FondationDeChildren.com will help kids like Emma and Evan get back to making mischief. Christine Long, CTV News.
And how can you say no to that? The Caring for Kids Radiothon is on CJAD 800, 95.9 Virgin Radio, and Shom 97.7 on Thursday from 6 in the morning to 7 p.m. And people can donate by calling that number Christine Long just mentioned, 514-919-KIDS, or donate online at FondationDeChildren.com. And coming up, Meta on trial.
I'm here today because my daughter should still be alive. Let that sink in. When my daughter was struggling, it became Meta's bottom line.
Facebook and Instagram, are they made deliberately to addict children? And a statement from Iran today calling Donald Trump delusional. Donald Trump today is claiming the Strait of Hormuz is new U.S. territory. Iran, for its part, says the strait will remain closed until there's a peace deal reached. Iran's also calling the president, quote, delusional. Devin Dwyer has the latest from Washington.
As the standoff over the Strait of Hormuz stretches past 5 months, President Trump now claiming that critical pathway for global oil is new U.S. territory, posting this image to social media without comment. In response, a top Iranian official calling Trump, quote, delusional.
We control it with a blockade, and I like the idea of declaring it a territory.
Iran is vowing to keep the strait closed until the U.S. meets a list of demands, including that blockade is lifted and millions of dollars in frozen assets are released. World markets are feeling the impact Tuesday as oil prices ticked higher and gas prices topped $4 a gallon on average. That's up $1.12 since the war started, according to Gas Buddy. Special Envoy Jared Kushner in Israel Monday telling Fox News U.S. engagement with Iran remains robust, though President Trump said later talks aren't happening.
That's quite positive, but we're not there yet on an understanding.
Before the war, about 15 to 20 million barrels of oil went through the strait daily. Now, U.S. officials say it's dwindled to just 8 to 9 million barrels per day. And despite Trump's claims of control over the strait, Energy Secretary Chris Wright saying on Fox News it remains very much contested.
We're in a conflict zone right now. We have military escorts every day. We've been doing this since early May to bring oil and gas out.
And just this morning, reports of an incident in the strait. UK authorities reporting a ship was struck by a projectile, resulting in damage and a crew casualty. Devin Dwyer, ABC News, Washington.
There was a missile attack on a village in Kharkiv today. 10 people were killed, and Ukraine is promising to respond. Ukraine says the missile hit the center of the village where there were stores and residential buildings. The UN Human Rights is monitoring the incident, saying it is investigating. The UN says civilian casualties from the war has risen by nearly a third in July. A much-anticipated trial has begun in California. Meta is defending itself against allegations that Facebook and Instagram has contributed to the youth mental health crisis by deliberately designing features that get children addicted to its platforms. Mike Dabuski reports.
In Oakland, California, 4 state attorneys general are arguing that certain features on Instagram and Facebook have negatively impacted the company's customers, especially children. The lawsuit, originally filed by more than 30 states in 2023, says Meta used, quote, powerful and unprecedented technologies to keep young people engaged on the platforms for as long as possible. According to California Attorney General Rob Bonta, it resulted in, quote, physical and mental harm, and that the company's actions exploited our most vulnerable residents to boost corporate profits.
And just like we talk about products like cars or cigarettes, they're making similar arguments as to the fact that Meta knew and continued this practice of very dangerous and addictive products.
In a statement to ABC News, a Meta spokesperson said, quote, we strongly disagree with these allegations and are confident the evidence will show our long-standing commitment to supporting young people. Meta calls these claims unsubstantiated, adding in a statement this is an attempt to penalize Meta for industry-wide challenges like age verification. Meta is estimating that financial penalties in this case could total $1.4 trillion, which they call vastly disproportionate. Most content on social media is protected by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which holds that a company cannot be held liable for illegal content published on its platforms. But previous cases in New Mexico and California have successfully argued that Section 230 doesn't apply to these questions. Instead of content, they argued, these cases target features like push notifications and infinite scrolling. In the New Mexico case from earlier this year, Meta is facing fines of nearly $1 billion. The company is appealing the cases in both New Mexico and California. Meta also revealed it spent $2.4 billion on legal expenses alone in the second quarter of this year, and last month revealed a rare decline in profits. The trial is expected to last about 6 weeks. Mike Dabuski, ABC News, New York.
The Lindsay Clancy murder trial is hearing more witnesses. Clancy is accused of planning to kill her 3 children. She is pleading mental illness. Armando Garcia has more.
Today, Lindsay Clancy's defense attorney continuing to argue the Massachusetts mother was suffering from postpartum psychosis when she killed her 3 children in 2023. Her former mother-in-law testifying Clancy was a devoted mom who was struggling with her postpartum health.
She was begging for help. She felt mostly she had insomnia. She was losing her appetite. She was very anxious and sad.
Clancy has admitted to strangling her children, but has pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder by reason of insanity, arguing a combination of psychiatric drugs prescribed after the birth of her 3rd child made her postpartum psychosis worse. In court, attorneys reading messages she sent to her mother-in-law.
I just deep down inside of me feel that I've developed a benzodependence after just 2 weeks of using it, and I feel like no one is hearing that and addressing it, and we keep throwing different meds in the mix that aren't really addressing the real issue.
But prosecutors say Clancy planned it all, intending to kill her children and herself. The defense calling on a forensic psychiatrist who did not treat Clancy but reviewed her medical records and testified her doctors may have missed warning signs.
A person with psychosis can have delusions. They can also have hallucinations. At times, she reported that she had heard a voice.
If found guilty of first-degree murder, Clancy faces a mandatory sentence of life in prison without parole. Armando Garcia, ABC News, New York.
A 3-year-old mystery in the Netherlands might have a Canadian connection.
Elke dag ligt hij hier op zijn bed.
Dutch police are trying to identify a man who collapsed in Amsterdam in 2023. He suffered a severe brain injury and now lives in a care facility in the Netherlands. The man isn't able to tell police his name and he carried no identification. Investigators say he could be Canadian based on his accent. Police have released this footage in the hope that someone might recognize him. And coming up, have you checked your car for trackers?
When people are putting these things into a vehicle, they're not there for a long amount of time. They kind of want to be in and out quickly. So that's why it's anywhere that's quick accessible, but also hidden at the same time.
Police are becoming increasingly concerned about how some people are using these trackers. And it could reduce flooding, roads and sidewalks that act like a sponge.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
An increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
The Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo is on track to be the deadliest ever. The virus is spreading faster than ever seen. It is a perfect storm of factors and making the spread very difficult to contain. Kyle Matthews is with the Montreal Institute for Global Security. Hi, Kyle.
Hi.
So, Kyle, it's being called a perfect storm in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC. First, this virus itself is new.
Yeah, well, the first case of Ebola was detected in the 1970s in the DRC. Then it was the country of Zaire. There have been more than 40 outbreaks, of which 17 have been in the Congo. So this is a recurring problem for the Congo. But you're right. In this case, this strain of Ebola is a much more rare one, of which there's little knowledge about it or any vaccines for it. So it's keeping people up at night, those working in global health, global security, the World Health Organization in Geneva. They're trying to do everything to control this so it doesn't spread beyond the Congo to other countries.
But the problem, too, is that it's located in a very remote area and in an unstable area of the DRC.
Well, it is. I started my career as an official with the UN High Commissioner with Refugees in the Congo, and one of my first tasks was to help evacuate offices in that part of the Congo from an Ebola outbreak. It's taking place in the the eastern part of the country, where it's been a long-standing conflict between rebel groups supported by different countries. So it has everything in place. It doesn't really have strong health infrastructure. There have been attacks against health workers. So it's very difficult to try to counter that in a conflict setting with there's little infrastructure or even government's presence.
And then you add to that, Kyle, the international factors, right? The U.S. is no longer with the World Health Organization. USAID has been shut down.
This is the double whammy, is that we've seen the last major outbreak of Ebola that took place in West Africa over a decade ago. The U.S. government played a leading role. USAID played a leading role. So did Canada. But with the U.S. cutting USAID, leaving the World Health Organization, we now don't have the same infrastructure and funds to respond to this. So there is a challenge. This could spiral into other parts of the Congo and to other parts of the country. And it's very dangerous because this disease has a 50% survival rate. If it spreads, it can really, really take more human lives. It's not like Ebola, not like COVID, but much, much deadlier.
Now, there is hope in the form of a possible vaccine. That's a while off yet, though. And there's also the question of trust, isn't there, Kyle? I mean, this is a region that's been left down and abandoned many, many times before.
Yes, I mean, there's little trust in this part of the country. The government is not really present. There's warring groups, the M23 rebel group supported by Rwanda. There's exploitation of natural resources. So there really isn't a government presence, and there's a lack of trust, and there's lots of disinformation. And we've seen, as I think I said just earlier, there have been attacks against health workers. So this is a challenge where we need other countries that have committed to global health to try to do more in the Congo and help the World Health Organization and other NGOs deal with this problem.
So what kind of action is needed from the international community right now?
We need to scale up health workers in the area. We need to scale up clean water. We need to have public information to tell people there how Ebola spreads, through bodily fluids. We need to try to ensure there isn't any zoonotic transfer, including the eating of bushmeat, which has been in some cases in the past the cause of this. So there's a lot of public education and health and health interventions that could be done very quickly.
And do you think it will be, Kyle?
I think countries are waking up and are going to put more resources here. I think we need to look at investing in public health globally as a part of our security strategy. So it's going to be challenging, but I think we're starting to see this ramp up as an important public policy issue for many governments around the world.
Okay. Thank you very much for this, Kyle.
Thank you.
Police are becoming more concerned about tracking devices such as AirTags. They're meant to help people find lost keys, wallets, pets. Increasingly, though, police say it's being misused. Here's Alexandra Hollick.
Whether they're attached to your keys or stored in your suitcase, smart trackers are designed to find your belongings in seconds. But in the wrong hands, they can be used for something far more sinister.
As a stalking device, by putting it in someone's purse or in their jacket or in a vehicle, and then tracking the motions of that individual.
The device is easy to get and doesn't cost much, but police warn it could put someone's privacy and safety at risk.
We could see it in criminal harassment cases where perhaps intimate partner violence may be an issue, or any type of person-on-person crime. It could be used in a situation where maybe a vehicle is being tracked to see when it's being unoccupied as an opportunity.
This is one example of just how small these smart tracking devices can be, and drivers are urged to check their vehicles for unknown tags regularly. This tracker could be found in here, behind here, in here, or under here.
When people are putting these things into a vehicle, they're not there for a long amount of time. They kind of want to be in and out quickly. So that's why it's anywhere that's quick accessible, but also hidden at the same time.
Sometimes your phone will notify you if an unknown tracker is nearby. As for where you can be tracked,
geography doesn't really matter. That tag is wherever it is. If it's placed on you, it can essentially follow you around the world.
If you do come across a tag, don't panic and don't touch it.
Pull over somewhere safe, somewhere well lit, somewhere where there's lots of people, and notify the police.
There could be information on there, or depending on where it was located, it helps the investigation.
A smart solution to try and stop bad actors in their tracks. Alexandra Hollick, CTV News, Kitchener.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
Well, showers, thunderstorms, a dip in our temperatures, that is what awaits us on Wednesday weather-wise. And if we compare tomorrow's high to what we dealt with today, it may feel a little bit on the cooler side. So today's daytime high was 26 degrees. That's 1 degree above the seasonal 25, but the Humidex made it feel like 31 today. And I also want to highlight the fact that we can tell that summer is almost wrapping up. We're getting closer to the fall. Our sunset tonight is at 7:57 p.m. Putting our futurecast into motion now, we'll start to see a few clouds increase overnight and into the early morning hours. We do start the day off with this system that's making its way towards Montreal. It looks like it'll hit us around 10 a.m., so hopefully that won't impact the morning commute. Now, throughout the day, we are looking at rain with the risk of thunderstorms later in the afternoon, and we pretty much hold on to that until about 6 o'clock. We still have some spotty showers with some thunderstorm cells nearby Montreal around 6, but that pushes eastwards, and around 10 p.m. we should be in the clear. A few clouds again overnight tomorrow as we head into Thursday, where we are expecting a mix of sun and clouds. So we will be rewarded for the rain that we're seeing tomorrow. Certainly on Thursday and Friday, it's going to be even nicer. So something to look forward to. On top of all that overnight, we are seeing our temperatures a little bit on the warmer side. 18 degrees is the low overnight, and typically we'd be at 14. We start tomorrow off at 19 degrees with showers starting around 9 or 10 a.m. Then we're looking at a daytime high of 22 degrees. We're estimating 7 millimeters of rain, a risk of thunderstorm later in the day. And then we have winds coming from the southwest that will be gusting up to 40 kilometers an hour. So this is one of the days where I advise people to hold on to their hat or their umbrella, because it's going to be a little bit on the windy side in the afternoon especially. Now, as we look forward to the next week ahead, Thursday, Friday, as I said, will be lovely, 25 degrees, seasonal with lots of sunshine. Saturday, we're calling for 27. We could see around 2 millimeters of rain later in the day. Sunday brings a risk of thunderstorms, 9 millimeters there. More rain on Monday with 5 millimeters of rain and a cooler 21 degrees. And this time next week, we hold on to that 21, but we will be seeing a mix of sun and clouds.
There's a possible solution to flooding in cities. A company is taking part in a pilot project in Ottawa. It makes pavement that can soak up water. Here's Kimberly Johnson.
Intense flooding has hit Ottawa communities hard this summer, but a new way to pave could be on the way in Ottawa to help prevent it in the future. It's called permeable pavement. Here, you see a bucket of water quickly absorb into it at the EV charging stations at the Ottawa airport.
It absorbed 18 liters of water in 32 seconds through less than 1 square foot of surface area.
The pavement, made by Pure Pave Technology, an Ottawa-based company. CEO Taylor Davis says during a storm, the specialized pavement allows the ground to act like a sponge instead of relying on drains.
When you have a storm system that's essentially full during these rain events, that's when we're starting to see flooding. That's when we have nowhere for the water to go.
With the permeable pavement, that moves through it. And then eventually it moves into the ground itself. That's where it gets absorbed. And the idea is to hopefully bypass the sewer systems altogether. The City of Ottawa is using the permeable pavement in a pilot project. Strips will be placed along Anna Avenue and Crown Crescent near Carling and Fisher.
The first of its kind in Canada.
While other permanent pavement systems exist, Pure Pave Technology says this one is unique as it's made to work in colder climates. The pilot project is being supported by the National Research Council as well as the University of Ottawa and Carleton. Councillor Devine says permeable pavement is being adopted in New York City, but here it's a first in Canada.
I hope now that we scale up and we do a lot more of this, because Ottawa's vulnerable wards, including my own, are being hit time and time again. And frankly, we could never afford to increase the size of our sewer systems.
The pilot project launches in the fall. Kimberly Johnson, CTV News.
And coming up, Canada's bee farms are in trouble.
Producers have said this is devastating. It could put the industry out of business.
Donald Trump's 50% tariffs has honey in its sights. And knowing how to spot the signs of stress among children and teenagers.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Back to school means new stresses for children, and emotional distress in children and in teenagers might appear different than in adults. Here's Mandy Gator.
Stress is a part of everyday life, and for students, school can feel overwhelming. But experts say children may not yet have the words to explain what's going on.
It's really up to us to give them the language they need to be able to communicate what they're experiencing, and then also teaching them the coping skills to go along with that.
Jody Baumstein with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says signs of stress can be different in children than in adults. She says to think of their behavior as communication. That may include changes in sleep habits, either snoozing too much or not well at all, shifts in diet, maybe they're eating more than usual or don't have an appetite. There may also be persistent stomach aches and headaches with no clear medical cause. Baumstein says they may suddenly withdraw from friends and activities they once loved, or simply not talk as much. There may be mood shifts that don't fit with their usual behavior.
So it might on the surface present as anger. They're lashing out a lot. But often that can be secondary, and what's primary might be the real root of it might be something like overwhelm or feeling guilty about something.
Instead of reacting to the behavior, Baumstein recommends parents delve deeper into the cause of it without judgment or interpretation. Ask open-ended questions and validate what they're feeling.
You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to know what that feels like to validate. You can just say it makes sense. It's normal and okay for you to feel that way.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
A new report looks at the finances of post-secondary students. And it seems many are starting the new school year under a lot of financial stress. Paul Hollingsworth has more.
This campus will soon be jam-packed with students who are balancing their demanding academic calendars with managing financial stress.
Terrible. It's not fun.
Trying to make ends meet can be difficult.
Rent, food.
The high cost of tuition, books, food, and housing is making life overwhelming for many students.
That's how it's going for the next, however long we have in our lives.
A new study shows 76% of post-secondary students say financial stress is negatively impacting their well-being and academic performance. 20% are more stressed about money than school. 23% don't know how to build and maintain a budget.
I think it's the worst that we've seen in quite a while.
There are steps being taken to help. The St. Mary's University Students Association is offering free groceries for anyone who needs assistance.
All of that is a lot of strain on their mental health, and then they have to worry about the 5 courses that they're taking.
Financial planner Daryl Smith says more young people are coming to him to learn basic steps to manage cash flow savings at a time when costs are rising.
It starts with a budget, and if kids are going out to be adults on their own at a young age, they have to kind of create the budget.
The survey also showed 89% of students hope to learn about investing. Many of the students we spoke with said even though they don't have money yet, they hope to learn how to manage money and plan for the future as they continue university. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Donald Trump's threatened tariffs affect many sectors, not the least of them, the honey sector. And it comes at a time when bee farms are already trying to cope with the health of bee populations. Alex Carpa reports.
So this will be mostly honey.
Chris Bartel is a third-generation honeybee farmer near Oakbank, Manitoba. He says the industry continues to face significant challenges.
It's definitely getting harder.
Bartel's family-run farm is in the middle of harvest, but there's a cloud lurking over this year's product. The U.S. is set to impose new 50% tariffs on several Canadian goods, including honey, starting on Wednesday.
If this 50% comes on, And it's not just a negotiation tactic and it comes on and it stays on. It could actually cause some farms to be lost. For the industry as a whole, I don't think it'd be a positive thing.
Canada produced over 84 million pounds of honey in 2025, according to Statistics Canada, which is an almost 4% volume increase from 2024. Data also shows that over half of the country's exports in that same year went to the United States.
My producers have said this is devastating. It could put the industry out of business.
The beekeepers sell their honey to Canadian packers, but some are now canceling contracts over fears the tariffs will mean less demand from the United States, which is the industry's biggest customer.
Canceling contracts means that beekeepers will not have a market for their honey, so they will have no revenue basically, because the honey production is the main source of revenue for most beekeepers.
Some economists say the tariffs could force Canadian producers to look for new international markets, a process that could take time.
It might take 6 months to a year before beekeepers are able to find customers that are in Europe or Asia or Africa or South America. So it could be very devastating for the economy here as well as the rest of Canada.
The Beekeepers Federation is calling on the federal government for emergency support if this tariff threat becomes a reality. Alex Carpa, CTV News, near Oakbank, Manitoba.
The owner of Pornhub has agreed to pay $120 million to settle 2 class action suits. The suits were filed in 2021 by people who claimed their sexually explicit videos, filmed when they were minors, were uploaded to Pornhub without their consent. They alleged Pornhub knowingly profited from that material. As part of the settlement, Pornhub has also agreed to take measures to make sure people who upload content or who appear in the content is over the age of 18.
Business news brought to you by Au Vieux de Loup. Generous and delicious plates all the time.
There were fewer Canadian home sales in July, down from a year ago. Marilla Fernandez has more.
Sales dropped over 5%, but the national average price moved up a fraction. The Canadian Real Estate Association puts that price at just under $675,000. They say markets are starting to even out, meaning regions that once favored sellers, like the Prairies, Quebec, and the East Coast, are balancing. So is the Ontario market, which had favored buyers. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar's up a fraction to 71.96. West Texas Intermediate's up to 84.94 US a barrel. Western Canadian Select up over $2 to 66.66. And the TSX dropped 299 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
The Montreal area might be going from a housing shortage to a housing surplus, and Matt, so much so that it could actually become a problem.
Yes, because the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation considers a balanced vacancy rate to be at 3%. Right now in Montreal, it sits at 3.1%. But by 2028, it's expected to increase to 4.8%. Now, the reason why we are going to see this increase, partly because 30,000 rental units are currently under construction. But what does this mean for affordability? Well, we spoke with an economist at the CMHC, and we'll have more on that. And Canadian tennis star Felix Auger-Aliassime plays tonight at the Cincinnati Open. We'll have the details and highlights of that match at 11:30. Tsumi?
Thanks very much, Matt. And when we come back, a young man who was Shark's best friend.
For breaking news and local news that matters to you, download the CTV News app right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using your smartphone. Or you can also go to our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca.
A teenager in New Brunswick says he could never walk away from an animal in distress, even when it's a shark. Here's Avery McCrae.
Finn Holland has walked this beach by his Maces Bay home for over a decade. In that time, he has seen a few seals, a beached whale carcass, but never any shark sightings. Until this weekend.
I felt like I did the right thing, and it feels good.
Just before dinner Saturday afternoon, Holland heard a port beagle shark had washed ashore. He went right to the beach, and a closer inspection determined the shark was still living. He wasted no time jumping into action to save the over 100-pound fish.
I flipped him over from his back to his stomach, and I grabbed his tail slowly with subtle touch and pulled him, dragged him into the water.
If I'm being honest, it's a very Finn thing to do.
Finn's mother, Jill Holland, is beaming with pride for her son's efforts. But during the rescue, she had other thoughts.
I was terrified. He grabbed onto the tail slowly, but I was like, that thing can whip around and get you at any time. I was convinced we were going to go to the hospital that night, but very, very lucky we didn't have to.
Porbeagle sharks tend to stay in the Bay of Fundy's deep waters and are declining in numbers. Marine Animal Response Society co-executive director Tanya Wimmer isn't sure what brought the shark to shore, but is pleased to hear about the happy ending.
To care that much and, obviously refuse to sort of simply walk by and see an animal that is suffering in that way is really quite wonderful.
In an email to CTV, rural community of Fundy Shores Mayor Denny Cogswell says the municipality plans to formally recognize Finn's heroics in the days ahead. But for the 15-year-old, it was never about the recognition. It was about doing the right thing.
I don't take pride in myself a lot, but I'm proud that I did this.
Ava McRae, CTV News, Maces Bay, New Brunswick.
And Lauren, the clouds are gathering.
Yes, that's right. It's setting the scene for tomorrow where we'll see rain, a risk of thunderstorms later in the day. So be sure not to forget your umbrella when you head out the door tomorrow in the morning. We'll see that rain fairly early on. But first, as you mentioned, Mitsumi, we have a few clouds overnight. A little bit of a warmer low, 18 degrees. We'd typically be around 14 this time of the year. We start the day at 19 with some showers, which if we look at the timeline, it's looking like 10 a.m. And then into the afternoon, we're estimating a high of 22 degrees, 7 millimeters of rain and winds gusting from the southwest up to 40 kilometers an hour.
And that's it for us. Have a good evening. Stay well. Good night.